Hello guys, let us discuss anthropology today. I will discuss with you anthropological theories. So there are many theories that we are going to discuss today, and uh, uh, there are so many theories in your syllabus that we are going to cover up today. We are going to discuss it in detail. uh, I will try to give conceptual clarity and relate it with contemporary examples and tribal societies, and we will try to study it. In we Anthropological theories is about evolution of culture, how culture forms, how culture originated, and how it evolves into different forms. Uh, we discussed in theories of organic evolution, that how human evolved biologically, what are the things that were going to be changes in a biological evolution, how we evolved from a single cellular organism to multicellular organism, from uh, prokaryotic cells to eukaryotic cells, that we are going to that we discussed in our previous videos. Today we will discuss about the culture, about the anthropological theories. Okay, so that we are going to discuss about it uh, today in this video. Okay, so first theory is a classical evolution theory, and together with we also will discuss new classical evolutionism. So classical evolutionism includes British anthropologist, as well as American anthropologist, as well as German anthropologist. Okay, so in our syllabus we have E.B. Tylor, James Frazer, and Morgan in classical theory evolutionists. So beside this theorist, beside these evolutionists, anthropologists, there are many other classical anthropologists that discussed about the various classical evolutionism. In this in our syllabus, we have three theorists, that is E.B. Tylor, Alex Morgan, and James Frazer, that we are going to discuss now. So, what about classical evolutionism? These theorists say that all culture they follow similar path uh, when they evolve. So there was unilinear evolutionism. Okay, so the culture was simple, then it was converted into complex form. Okay, so it goes through various stages. Okay, so we EB Tyler. EB Tyler, I have discussed it with you about EB Tyler, and he was a British anthropologist, and okay, and he was the founder of cultural anthropology. Okay, then he worked. He E.B. Tyler uh, wrote a beautiful book called named Primitive Culture. Okay, so in his primitive culture, he defined about the culture in our previous videos about culture and civilization. We discussed about culture is the complex whole that E.B. Tyler has given definition of culture. It includes various uh, is the complex whole that includes various customs, various traditions, various uh, beliefs, various knowledge. Okay, so it was. the various knowledge that are acquired by human beings as a member of the society. Okay, so uh, A.B. Tylor was also called as armchair anthropologist. What do you mean by armchair anthropologist? Armchair anthropologists are those anthropologists that do not do field work, that don't do first-hand information or field survey, but they rely on books, journals, research papers, articles, and study the culture on the basis of secondary source. Okay, that is why Tylor was an armchair anthropologist. Okay, so the Tylor has so there was different this formation evolution of culture passing through the different phases from simple to complex, like when we talk about first was the savagery stage, then second was the barbarism, then barbarism, then there was a civilization in barbarism. In savagery, uh, ancestors were doing hunting and gathering. Then they gradually started domestication, agriculture, and that stage was known as barbarism. And from barbarism, there was a development of urban centers, and we discussed it Indus Valley civilization, Harappan civilization, then development of various kingdoms. So all this comes under civilization. Then also there was I have discussed about the religion also evolved in the unilinear fashion, like uh, animism was first form, animatism, polytheism was another form, and then monotheism was another form. Polytheism means belief in many god, monotheism is belief in one god. Animism means belief in it's a form of religion, and it is a belief in supernatural powers. So when uh, in the starting phase, human used to believe in supernatural powers, and he because there was so many things that were happening around him or her, and he or she could not answer why these natural phenomena were occurring. He was not having any answer, or because science was not developed at that stage. So he explained it through the use of supernatural forces. He started believing that there is some supernatural forces that is controlling all these things, that is causing floods, that is causing rain, that is causing drought. Okay, and he started worshipping these supernatural forces to pacify him. Then we have uh, marriage also pass through the various stages and in the unilinear fashion, like there was promiscuity, then there was polygamy. Then polygamy means uh, 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 many spouses. Okay, and monogamy means one marriage, and polygamy means more than one marriage, and promiscuity means no regulation of reproductive behavior. So this was, and about technology also evolves in the similar fashion. Technology also started evolving through the similar fashion, there was in the initial phase there was use of simple tools. Then then human ancestors started making use of stone tools. Then after that human beings shifted towards metal tools. Then after that gradually, and with the passage of millions of years ago, and started using sophisticated tools. Okay, So there were so this classical evolutionist, okay, they it has a lot of criticism also. Okay, so evolutionism, they explained about the evolution of a culture, how culture was previously very simple, and then it got transformed into complex culture. After that, the culture shifted from homogeneity to heterogeneity. Okay, then there was some few assumptions of by classical evolutionists. They say that there was a psychic unit of mankind. So by psychic unity of mankind, it meant that there was that people of the same time period living in different region, they think in the same manner, they think in the same manner. Okay, okay, so all evolution takes place in the unilinear fashion. Okay, all human beings, all human societies, they pass through the same stages during the course of culture evolution. Okay, so there was a lot of criticism of this classical theory, that they did not conducted field work. They believe that there is a psychic unit of man, but it was criticized by diffusionists. We will study what diffusionism, school of diffusionism, say about culture. Okay, so they were uh, they were also, they did not talk about functionalist aspects and diffusionist aspects of culture. Okay, so James Frazer, like I have told you, he wrote Golden Bow. So he explained that magic came first, then came religion, then came science. Okay, so he has explained it. Okay, so and also let about L.H. Morgan. L.H. Morgan, I have told about, he was a American anthropologist, mm, L.H. Morgan, he um he studied about the Iroquois Indians, worked on Iroquois Indians, and wrote a book called Leak of the Iroquois. So we have come across a number of books like the Golden Bow, the book by Primitive Culture by E.B. Tylor, then Golden Bow by James Frazer, and The Leak of the Iroquois by L.H. Morgan, was American anthropologist. Okay, Morgan also gave a book like System of Consanguinity and Affinity of the Human Family. Okay, Ancient Society was also given by L.H. Morgan. Okay, Morgan discuss about so many things. So I have discussed with you that it has unilinear. So they unilinear had accomplished so many things, like Alech Morgan, had explained the culture, and it said that it passes through various stages like savagery, barbarism, and then civilization. Then we have seen that it tried to explain the culture evolution, and it it tried to create anthropology as a scientific discipline. Okay, so it had a lot of accomplishment. Okay, so the classical evolutionism were the first anthropologist who laid the foundation of laid the foundation of it had become organized discipline because of classical evolutionism. It has been criticized. Okay, so also many diffusionists also criticized it. Functionists also criticized it. There was sort of, so there was, is this it also led to the formation of new new evolutionism. Okay, so I have discussed with you the Morgan explained various stages, and Edward Tylor explained various stages. Okay, so and then we discussed about there is okay. So we have discussed about a classical theory of evolutionism. Okay, guys. then we will discuss about new evolutionism. New evolutionism, okay. So new evolutionism it brought changes in the evolutionism, and it tried to make it scientific. Okay, okay. So, in our syllabus, in new evolutionism, we have Leslie White, we have V. Gordon Childe, we have Julian Stewart, okay, we have Marshall Sahlin, we have Almond Service, okay, we have Almond Service, then we have to discuss various anthropologists in a new evolutionism. Okay, guys. So, okay. So we we I will discuss about Julian Stewart and various I will discuss about okay. Then I will discuss about they then new evolutionism. The new evolutionism they said that it that the evolutionism of culture is not unilinear, but they said that uh, it was in the form of parabolic curve. Okay, new evolutionism said. Okay, then उसके बाद then BD V Gordon Childe. What does V Gordon Childe said? So V Gordon Childe said he wrote a book named Social Evolutionism. So he we Golden Child had he was talking about how the culture evolved. Okay, then he said that he described the evolutionism of culture in terms of various event. Okay, then and we Gordon Childe discussed about Neolithic evolutionism and revolutionism. He talked about. Okay, then uh, okay, then there was around Childe. So Childe, okay, though VD Gordon Childe explained he was it was based on the belief that technology was the responsible for the evolutionism of culture. So technology was the okay. Then V Gordon Childe focused on the technology. Okay, focused on the technology. Okay. Okay, so Childe said that how culture progress. Culture progress because there was increase in the usage of technology, and technology usage led to exploitation of natural resources. So, uh, called V Gordon Childe. Okay, he was British historian. He was archaeologist. Okay, then he was the pioneer of British school of neo abolitionists. He explained that technology was responsible for the culture evolutionism. He tried to explain the culture evolutionism through the usage of technology. Okay, and he conducted large number of excavation, and he divided the archaeological period into Mesolithic period, into Neolithic, Mesolithic, Paleolithic period, Mesolithic period, Neolithic period, Copper Age, then Iron Age, then the Bronze Age, and then Iron Age. He divided the period. Okay. Then comes Leslie White. So Leslie White was a prominent anthropologist. Okay, so what does Leslie White say? Okay, and Leslie White said that there was a culture change. The culture evolutionism occurs in culture, and that was energy. So he tried to explain the culture evolutionism on the basis of energy. Leslie White. V. Gordon Childe explained the culture evolutionism in terms of usage of technology. There was usage in technology, and whereas the Leslie White, he explained the cultural evolution in terms of energy usage. Okay, as the time passes with the evolution, the the in when we talk about simple societies, the usage of energy was very less. Okay, but they depend upon free amount of energy. So then comes the stage of domestication, agriculture. The energy increases. Okay, so civilization, the quantity of energy is maximum. Okay, the product, then comes energy, then culture is the product of energy and technology. Okay, so less energy, less technology gives low culture. Okay, so Leslie White. We talked about Leslie White. British was V. D. Gordon Childe was British anthropologist. Leslie White was American anthropologist. Okay, so there was a growth in the quantity and the quality of energy. Okay, so Leslie White ignore the role of environment on evolutionism. Okay, so he talked about universal evolutionism of the culture. And what about Julian Stewart? Okay, Julian Stewart. So Julian Stewart, uh, he uh, Stewart said that all societies pass through the same, do not pass through the same stages. Rather, evolution is multilinear. It is not unilinear. Okay, so V.D. Gordon Childe, Leslie White, Julian Stewart, they were different from classical evolutionists because they said that culture, all societies do not pass through the same stages. They pass through the different stages. Okay. Then he he wrote a book, The Theory of Cultural Culture Change, Methodology of Multilinear Evolution. Theory of Culture Change, the methodology of multilinear evolutionism. Okay. So we know that E.B. Tylor and L.H. Morgan, they are considered as unilinnear evolutionists. Okay, then there was uh, theory of culture change, the methodology of multilinear evolutionism. So I am talking about Leslie White. I have talked about Julian. We are talking about Julian Stewart. I have talked about Leslie White. Okay, then V. Gordon Childe, Julian Stewart. So according to Stewart, all society they they do not go through the same revolutionary stages. Rather, evolutionism is multilinear. In his book Theory of Culture Change, the theory of culture change, the methodology of multilinear evolutionism. Okay, the methodology of multilinear evolutionism. Okay, theory of culture change, the methodology of multilinear evolutionism. Then he suggested the typology of cultural evolutionism. Leslie White discussed about the typology of cultural evolutionism. He talked about that. He talked about unilinear evolutionism, then multilinear evolutionism, then universal evolutionism. Okay, so they unilinear evolutionism. Okay, so was discussed by I have told you, and in about multilinear evolutionism, Julian Stewart he talked about the evolutionism is multilinear in nature. Okay, then about universal evolutionism. Okay, then universal evolutionism. Then the type of culture evolution is represented by V. Gordon Childe and Leslie White. Okay. Then I have Julian Stewart also discussed about culture ecology. Julian Stewart. Okay. Also discussed about culture ecology. So Stewart gave the concept of culture ecology. Okay. And multilinear evolutionism. So and it gives a new direction to the anthropology. Okay. Then I discussed about specific and general evolutionism. Then various types of I have so so far in new evolutionism I have discussed it with new evolutionism uh, the various anthropologists that belong to new evolutionism include V. Gordon Childe. V. Gordon Childe discussed was an archaeologist uh, and okay, V. Gordon Childe. He was historian. He was V. Gordon Childe. So V. Gordon Childe. So V. Gordon Childe. He was a great historian So he talked about the he studied the prehistoric culture and divided the prehistoric culture into Paleolithic period, Mesolithic period, Neolithic period, Copper Age, Bronze Age, and Iron Age. Okay, so then comes this V. Gordon Childe was British anthropologist, and Leslie White was American anthropologist, and he tried to explain the evolutionism in terms of usage of technology. Leslie White. Okay, Leslie V. Gordon Childe explained with the help of technology, and Leslie White tried to explain uh, the culture evolutionism in terms of what in terms of energy. Okay, so there he gave equation, that is energy into technology. Energy and technology includes culture. Okay, then Leslie White, and then comes Julian Stewart. So Leslie White, I talked about Leslie White gave the concept of uh, universal theory of evolutionism. There is a universal theory of evolutionism. Okay, so he was not concerned about the evolutionism in a particular society, but he talked about universal evolutionism of the world. Leslie White. He was that is why he was universalist theory of evolutionist. Then comes Julian Stewart. So Julian Stewart wrote about culture ecology. So culture ecology. Okay. So culture ecology it used for to analyze the to study the influence of environment on culture and its structure. Influence of environment on its culture and its structure. Okay. Okay, then cultural ecology. Julian Stewart was discussed more. He gave the concept of culture ecology, and he told that there is then फिर uh, culture ecology. Then comes Leslie White, V. Gordon Childe, then V. Gordon Childe, then comes Leslie White, then comes Julian Stewart. Okay, then Julian Stewart, I discussed about the cultural ecology. He gave the concept of cultural ecology, and he also talked about this Julian Stewart. He also gave the typology. In his book, Julian Stewart, The Theory of Culture Change, the Methodology of Multilinear Evolutionism. The theory of culture change, the theory of culture change, the methodology of multilinear evolutionism. He gave typology, that is unilinear evolutionism, then multilinear evolution, then universal evolutionism. Who gave it? Uh, Julian Stewart. Then neo evolutionism. We have discussed about Julian Stewart. We have discussed about Leslie White. gave the concept of energy. V. Gordon Childe gave the concept of technology. Leslie White, and then comes Julian Stewart, gave the concept of cultural ecology, and he also gave the theory of culture change, the methodology of multilinear evolutionism. He gave typology that includes unilinear evolutionism, multilinear evolutionism, and universal evolutionism. So that he discussed, we tried to study the neo-evolutionism and the various anthropologists that come under the category, that come under the school of Neolithic theory of evolutionism. Okay, then next is in Neolithic we have also this Marshall. Okay, Marshall and Sahlin. Okay, then Marshall Sahlin was also an American anthropologist. Okay, then about he authored the book that is Evolutionism, Evolution and Culture, and he divided the evolution into two types, that is general evolutionism and then is specific evolutionism. Okay, so Sahalin talks about general evolutionism and the specific evolutionism. Okay, so he talked about uh, the various types of Marshall Sahlin. So Marshall Sahlin is an American anthropologist. Okay, he's an American anthropologist, Marshall Sahlin. So he authored the book Evolution and Culture. He the author of the book Evolution and Culture. So he okay, then Marshall Sahlin. So uh, Sahlin, he divided the evolutionism into general evolutionism and specific evolutionism. Okay, Marshall Sahlin. He was also an American anthropologist. Okay, so then Alman Service, he was also an neo evolutionist, and he discussed about he was discussed about the four levels of political organization, that is band, tribe, chiefdom and state. Okay, he also the various discussed the various stages of cultural evolutionism, that is a band, then tribe, then chiefdom and then kingdom. He discussed about the political evolutionism, political organization, band, then comes tribes, then comes chiefdom and then state. So Almond service. Okay, so new evolutionism. I have discussed about Leslie White, Julian Stewart, V. Gordon Childe, Martian Service. Okay, so he discussed about general evolutionism and specific evolutionism. That is, general evolution means the trends at the broader level, and specific evolution means the trends at the local level. Okay, so they it made the evolutionism dynamic and scientific. Okay, so how the evolutionism occurs through the environment, through the energy, through the technology. Okay, okay, it explained. Okay, so there was a lot of things about new evolutionism, then also discussed about we classical and new evolutionism. So I have discussed with you about uh, uh, so this is all about classical and new evolutionism. In classical evolutionism, we have discussed about in our syllabus, that is E.B. Tylor, and then Julian, then James Frazer, then wrote Golden Bough, and Alex Morgan, who wrote The Leak of the Iroquois Indians, and all agree that culture pass through various stages like simple to complex, like savagery to barbarism to civilization. Okay, then simple. Then various anthropologists I have discussed with you, try to explain who are the anthropologists that come under the classical evolutionism. There is L.H. Morgan, then E.B. Tylor, discussed that evolutionism passed through the various stages, that is from simple to complex. Okay, then we have discussed about new evolutionism. New evolutionism includes Julian Stewart, then Leslie White, V. Gordon Childe. He was historian. He was archaeologist. Then, Julian, then Leslie White. He explained the evolutionism in terms of technology and energy utilization. Leslie White also. Then comes the very then Julian Stewart. Stewart explained the cultural ecology, and he explained the typology of universal evolutionism, unilinear evolutionism, and multilinear evolutionism. Okay, then comes uh, almond service almond then comes about uh, Marshall talks about the evolutionism. He talked about the evolution at the local level, and he talked evolution is at the global level, global trend, that is general evolutionism and special evolutionism. Special evolution. Then there comes Alvan Service, Alman Service. He explained the evolutionism, and he also explained the four levels of political organization, that is band, tribe, chiefdom, and state. We also discussed about that. They have common ancestry, whereas they tribe don't have common ancestry. Okay, then comes chiefdom. Number of this tribes constitute chiefdom, and number of abolition the kingdom. Then state, the state means there is a centralized political structure, centralized economic system. There is a collection of formal collection of taxes, collection of revenue. So this is the something about classical evolutionism and the various anthropologists that talked about classical evolutionism and new evolutionism. Okay, then we have then next that is discussed about we have discussed about historical. Then we will discuss it about historical particularism. Okay, okay, so historical particularism in we have uh, uh, so Franz Boas, he was he reacted against evolutionism. Okay, and he talked that each culture has its unique characteristics. No culture is inferior or superior. We should not rank the culture. So he gave the concept of historical particularism. Okay, so Franz Boas also focused on field work. Okay, then historical particularism. Okay, then we have diffusionism. But before that, we will talk in detail about this historical particularism. Okay, so Franz Boas. Franz Boas and this A.L. Krober, Ruth Benedict, and Margaret Mead. They were the students of Franz Boas. You must know about it. So the term historical particularism basically was coined by Marvin Harris. Okay, historical particularism says that each society has a unique culture. Each has culture development, culture evolutionism. Okay, and he did not talk. He was against evolutionism that talks about that culture passes through the same unilinear sequence that he culture. Okay, so He believed in field work and then collecting the data and analyzing the data, and they described a particular culture. Okay, so he did not explain the establishment of grand theories. Okay, culture has a unique history, particular history. Okay, that is a uh, we have discussed also this A.L. Kroeber, Margaret Mead, Ruth Benedict, A.L. Kroeber, Margaret Mead. They were the students of Franz Boas. He was okay. So okay, so then gives for example the uh, he talked about he studied the different cultures, okay, and so he was trying to study the different culture and said that he culture is unique. You must, in order to understand the culture, you must visit the culture and live with them and collect data and study the data, and you should not have any preconceived ideas before understanding any culture. Okay, so he gave the approach. He gave this approach known as four field method of anthropology. Okay, France Boas students. Okay, so four field methods of anthropology, that is biological, then linguistic, then sociocultural, then archaeological. So he had given four field method of. Okay, so what is accomplishment? So he discussed about the cultural relativism. Okay, okay. Then he like evolutionism. They were ethnocentrism in nature. They had ethnocentric styles in them. Okay, then Franz Boas wrote a book, Race, Language and Culture. So many books I have discussed with you. The theory of culture change, cultural evolutionism, theory of multilinear evolutionism, then primitive culture by E.B. Tylor, then system of consanguinity and affinity of human family, L.H. Morgan. Okay, then evolution uh, by Leslie White, then V. Gordon Childe, theory of culture change, the methodology of multilinear, methodology of culture change, the methodology of multilinear evolutionism. Then wrote a book, Race, Culture and Language, Race, Language and Culture, France Boas. Okay. Uh, then he believed, uh, so he gave the idea of cultural relativism. Okay, so he gave the idea of cultural. It has also criticism. Okay, that it is a it so historical particularism is a is used in a very well way to study the primitive culture, but not be able to study the complex culture. So there was a lot of criticism of classical evolutionism that believe in ethnocentrism, but cultural relativism was the belief of historical particularism. They rejected the ethnocentric ideas. Okay, it provided a new direction to the anthropology. It was a significant in the history of anthropology. Okay, okay. So he laid the foundation. Historical particularism laid the foundation of field work. Okay, okay. So that was evolutionism. So the various theories of anthropologists, that how the culture evolved, how it passed through various stages, how the culture is studied. I also mentioned about that Ruth Benedict, Margaret Mead, and Ruth Benedict, Margaret Mead, and A.L. Kroeber were the students of Franz Boas. Franz Boas belonged to he gave he studied historical particularism. Okay, he was of the view that all culture are equally important and it should be studied in their own context. Okay, it should be studied in their own context. that okay, then we have studied about then I will discuss with you about diffusionism. That is, diffusionism have different mm, school of diffusionism includes British, American and German anthropologists. Okay, so in our syllabus there is a mentioning of British anthropologist, American anthropologist and German anthropologist. In British School of Diffusionism, G. E. Smith, W. G. Perry, and W. H. Rivers. G. E. Smith and G. E. Smith, W. J. Perry, and W. H. Rivers were the main scholars of this school. Okay, G. E. Smith, W. J. Perry, and W. H. R. Rivers. They were the main scholars of this school. Then American, then Franz Boas, then Clark Whistler, then A. L. Kroeber. Uh, they were the main. They belong to American School of Diffusionism. Then F. Radzel, Suckmit, Grabner. F. Radzel, Suckmit, Grabner belong to German School of Diffusionism. Okay, no, but first, okay, so then there was we are discussing about this diffusionism. Okay, so diffusionism it emerged in the early years of 20th century. It emerged in the early years of the 20th century. Okay, so diffusionism say that culture culture traits, they originate at one point and it diffused in the other parts of the world. Okay, so various cultural complexes, various cultural traits, okay, they develop at various times at different parts of the world, and later on it diffuse over the various corresponding parts of the earth. So culture grew not because of unilinear evolutionism or multilinear evolutionism or universal evolutionism or general evolutionism or specific evolutionism, but the, the origination of cultural traits and complexes due to there happens migration, then there happens contact, it happens due to mutual contact. Okay, that is a cultural diffusion. Okay, then what I told you about the various school of diffusionism, like a British school of diffusionism comprises G. E. Smith, then W. J. Parry and W. J. Parry and W. H. Rivers belong to British School of Diffusionism, and this A. L. Kroeber, Clark Whistler, and Franz Boas belong to American School of Diffusionism, and Grabner and Sukhmit belong to German School of Diffusionism. Okay, so British School of Diffusionism say that Egypt was the place where culture originated, and from Egypt culture spread to the different parts of the world. Okay, they were this form of diffusionism is known as heliocentrism. It is also called as heliocentrism. So all the the findings, the works, they were mainly concentrated in Egypt. They are also known as Egyptologist. Okay, okay, guys. Then we have discussed about WHR rivers. So he also went on Torres Strait, Cambridge expedition on the Torres Strait. Okay, the history of Melanesian society. He was the first who spoke against abolitionism. Okay, so he he wrote the book, The History of Melanesian Society, The History of Melanesian Society by W.H.R. Rivers. Okay, W.H.R. Rivers. Okay, he also was part of expedition, Cambridge expedition to the Torres Strait. Okay, so basically he's this cultural theory, evolutionism theory says that man is inventive, there is psychic unity of man, but they say that man is uninventive. Okay, there is a migration, there is a diffusion, there is a contact it through which the culture spread. Okay, the history of Melanesian society, he studied about the history of Melanesian society. Okay, so for example, he explained diffusionism. He through the various travelers, through the various individuals, writings, physical migrations. Okay, so there was various kind of diffusionism that was explained by River. Okay, okay. Then comes G. E. Smith. G. E. Smith was a Australian British autonomist. So he also says that it was the source of a high culture. Man is a W. H. Arias and G. E. Smith and W. J. Perry. So W. J. Perry, from he said that megalithic culture it started from Egypt and spread from Egypt to the world. Who said? W. J. Perry. Okay, he was hyper diffusionist. He was hyper diffusionist. Okay, then this diffusionist to attack the diffusionists, British diffusionist, German diffusionist came. Okay, so German diffusionist said that the culture did not originate at Egypt, but from different places of the world, and from where it was migrated to other places. Okay, so this school, German school, is also known as Culture Crease School or Culture Circle School. Culture Circle School, Culture Crease School of Thought. Okay, for example, Indonesia, we are famous for bow and arrow culture, and from bow and arrow culture of Indonesia spread to Africa. Okay, like Buddhism also spread from India to Mongolia. Okay, so they were basically clergy, priest people. Okay, then like Shipmead, then Grebner, then Radzel. Okay, so so this is was something about German or continental school of thought, like given by culture circle. They gave the concept of culture circle. Okay, uh, Grabner, culture circle or culture crease school of thought, culture circle school of thought. Okay, they are not an inventor, man is mostly imitator. Then comes American School of Diffusionism, that A.L. Kroeber, then Clark Whistler, Franz Boas. So they are also known as founder of American School of Diffusionism. Okay, they gave the idea of culture center, culture area, then culture margin, then culture center, culture margin, culture area. Okay, to explain the process of diffusionism. It is also known as culture area school. American School of Diffusionism is known as culture area school. German School of Diffusionism is also known as culture circle school. Okay, so there is a so culture A.L. Kroeber. A.L. Kroeber, American School of Diffusionism. They studied the various societies. Okay, okay, they studied the diffusionism of culture through the culture circle concept, the culture center concept, the culture area concept, the culture margin concept. Okay, E.L. Grover gave the concept of culture climax. Okay, culture climax is the portion of the culture area from where the most of the cultural traits are. Most of the cultural traits are concentrated over here. Okay, Okay, so I have talked about Franz Boas belongs to historical this historical particularism school of thought, and Franz Boas also belonged to diffusionism school of thought. He talked about cultural relativism and historical particularism. Gave the concept. Okay, A.L. Kroeber. A.L. Kroeber was also a student of Franz Boas. Okay, okay. Clark Whistler was an American anthropologist. Okay, okay, guys. So Kroeber observed the culture area concept. They studied native North American societies. Okay, so it they he they gave the concept of culture area, culture center, culture circle. Okay, they explained that Egypt was the only source of culture. They explained that culture also originated from other places, like the spread of Buddhism from India to Mongolia. How? So they were, but they were criticized by functional school of thought. Functional school of thought belonged to Malinowski and Radcliffe-Brown. Okay, so there was a lot of difference between cultural evolutionism, general evolutionism, linear evolutionism, like multilinear evolutionism, universal theory of evolution, general evolutionism, specific evolutionism, culture area, culture circle. So American school of diffusionism is also known as culture area school of thought, and German or school of thought is also known as culture center school of diffusionism, and the this the anthropologists who belong to British school of thought, they were called as Egyptologists because they thought that Egypt was the center of source of all the culture in the world, and from Egypt spread to the different parts of the culture. Culture spread from Egypt to the different parts of the world. That you must understand about it. That it is very much required to study about the culture. Okay, you have to Okay, so you must understand about the diffusionism, about the various types of diffusionists, like A.L. Kroeber, then A.L. Kroeber, Clark Whistler, then Franz Boas belong to American School of Diffusionism, then Grabner, Radzel, Submit belong to this another school of thought, that is this German school of thought, and this W.J. Perry, Smith, and A.L. W.J. Perry Smith, and W.H. Rivers belong to British School of Diffusionism, and W.H. Rivers also belong to the expedition that was carried, Cambridge expedition that was carried to the Torres Strait. Okay, so I have discussed about with you about diffusionism, like British diffusionist, German diffusionist, American diffusionist. Okay, that culture there was a spread of culture traits, culture complexes from one society to another, not by evolutionism. Okay, historical particularism explained by Franz Boas, and diffusionism explained by American diffusionist and German diffusionist. It is also known as culture circle, culture crease school of thought. Okay, okay. Then we have the global spread of McDonald's. It shows diffusionism ideas, the customs. Okay, moving between cultures, each culture is giving them local meaning. Vegetarian burgers in India. Okay, so he boss gives about field anthropology, cultural relativism, field work. Turning it was a turning point in modern anthropology. Okay, Boas, France, Boas studied about a Quaicutal of the North America, and studied their potlatches. That is gift. Potlatch means that is organizing feast, gift giving to the gift was gift giving ceremony. Okay, it had a sense only in the local history. It has a sense only in the local history, not as a stage of evolutionism. Okay, I discussed about France Boas. Okay, it has a unique history. It has a sense in its own culture, Quaicutal by France Boas. It has no significance. It cannot be cultural diffusionism. It cannot be explained by ethnocentrism. Okay, like Quaicutal practices. Quietude practices studied in North America. Quietude of North America studied by this fine anthropologist France was okay. Potlatches ceremonies. It has a importance in their local history only, local culture only. Okay, okay. So they are. mm, among we have studied about L.H. Morgans and Frazer's in the Golden Book. Okay, then we have studied E.B. Tylor's in classical. Then we have studied about neo ethnocentrism, neo evolutionism. Okay, then comes evolution. This various functionalist school of thought that we are coming to. Functionalism. Malinowski belonged to functionalism school of thought. Okay, so various culture tries to meet the various human needs, like human needs have food and shelter and they are like Malinowski studied the Triborian Islanders. He studied about the various ceremony of culture ceremony, that is exchange of red shell necklace and armbands. It was not just trade, but it was just it was just a friendship ties, status, full needs, friendship needs, status needs, peace between the islands. Okay, Radcliffe-Brown studied Andaman Islanders. Okay, so how this various structures, the various cultural institutions like family, marriage, it create a social harmony. It create a structure of the society. It is not just satisfy individual needs. It just create the structure of the family. It kept social harmony. Andaman Islanders. Okay, so okay, so. So it was a difference between functionalism and this cultural school of thought. So functionalism, given by Malinowski, who studied the Trobadian islanders of Melanesia, he taught that the culture practices are happening in the society just to satisfy the various human needs. Like he talked about the colouring practices that is happening in Trobadian islanders. It was not just a trade; it was just to satisfy their social harmony, to satisfy the individual needs, like friendship ties, brotherhood among them, trust among them. And whereas the Radcliffe Brown, who belonged to this is structure functionalism school of thought, who argued that the various cultural practices are there to maintain social harmony in the society. The various institutions are there for societal need, for societal needs, not individual needs. Okay, then there are various cultural practices, that is kinship, rules, rituals are happening, family, marriage, all these things are happening just to satisfy the various things in them. Okay. So we are discussing anthropology theories. So far, we have discussed classical evolutionism, new evolutionism. We have discussed about historical particularism. We have discussed about diffusionism, school of thought, how the culture evolves, how the culture evolutionism takes place. Diffusionism arose in the early. Came in the early 20th century. The diffusionism came in the early 20th century. Okay, diffusionism came in the early 20th century. Then we comes we have this uh, uh, various uh, school of thought, that is structuralism, Levi Strauss and Edmund Leach. Okay, so okay, so I will discuss about this structuralism. Okay, structuralism, no, functionalism and structural functionalism. Okay, so structural functionalism. I was discussing with you about it. Okay, so we let us discuss about functionalism. So functionalism came. it was it reacted against this functionalism, and it was reacted against evolutionism and diffusionism. Okay, so main school of functionalism belongs to Malinowski functionalism and Radcliffe-Brown's structural functionalism. Then, okay, Malinowski talked about the needs of individual needs, whereas Radcliffe-Brown talked about the needs of society. Okay, okay, we are doing some fulfill this needs. Culture satisfies some needs, biological needs. We talked about various needs, that is biological needs, primary needs, derived needs, instrumental needs. Okay, so he talked about derived needs, instrumental needs, and derived needs. Okay, so Malinowski, according to Malinowski, human needs fall into three categories in his book Scientific Theory of Culture. Okay, Scientific Theory of Culture, Malinowski distinguished three levels of needs of a society, that is biology, biological needs, derived needs, integrative needs. Okay, so we are talking about a scientific theory of culture, scientific theory of culture. Okay, scientific theory of culture. We will discuss about various types of needs. The book written by Malinowski, that is a scientific theory of culture, scientific theory of culture. It talked about primary needs. Okay, then instrumental needs. Okay, so instrumental needs means these are the some, for example, like institutions, they help to achieve primary needs. Okay, okay. So there are okay, guys. So Malinowski studied about Strawberry and Islanders. I discussed about he studied about the coloring, the various aspects of it, political aspects, the economic aspects, the ritual aspects of this society. Okay, okay, so functionalism also rely on a field work. Like Malinowski is considered as the father of field work. Okay, and he also talked about participant observation and ethnography in Argonauts of the Western Pacific, and ethnography in Argonauts of the Western Pacific, Argonauts of the Western Pacific. Okay, Argonauts of the Western Pacific. He wrote a book. Okay, so he also studied about ethic and the amic approach of it. Okay, Malinowski was function, not societal concept. Okay, then Radcliffe Brown, he discussed about the culture of needs of the society. Okay, so he contributed also towards field work and analysis. Okay, Radcliffe Brown, he studied about he was called a structural levinist. Okay, theory of social structure. So structure and function in primitive society. Radcliffe Brown, he in his book Structure and Function in Primitive Society elaborated his concept of social structure and its function. Okay, so Radcliffe Brown, Radcliffe uh, so A.R. Radcliffe Brown wrote a book, Structure and Function in Primitive Society. Okay, so he discussed about society needs, and he also elaborated about that. Uh, okay, so he gave the concept of the social structure. Okay, the social structure is like different organs of the human body work, how the different parts of living being function in order that the society to function. So the different organs work so that the whole society work properly. So Radcliffe-Brown defined social structure. So social structure is a continuous arrangement of persons controlled by social institutions. So we have relations, we have arrangement of people, we have, okay, so he talks about structure of the society, social structure, okay, and social organization. Social organization is arrangement of person, social structure, how people are related with each other and they work together. Okay, so structural functionalism, it responds against evolutionism. Okay, so functionalism and structural functionalism was a scientific theory of school of thought. Okay, so it it has a lot of achievement in it. Okay, it is uh, its contribution is influencing anthropology even today. Okay, Radcliffe Brown and Malinowski, so they were also relevant to Indian anthropology. So social structure is like arrangement of persons in relation to each other. Okay, so we have different uh, like there are so many people, they are related with each other and they are doing their own task. Okay, so Radcliffe Brown has explained the social structure. Okay, there was arrangement of persons. Okay, so social structure means there is like existence of social group. There is social group is there. There is a structure. Social structure means there is a society, there is a group, there are different classes, and there are different. They are distinct from one another, and there is an interaction between the groups and the persons. Okay, so functionalism and structural functionalism given by Malinowski and uh, Radcliffe Brown. So about structural functionalism, A.R. Radcliffe Brown in his book Structure and Function in Primitive Societies, he elaborated the concept of social structure. So Radcliffe Brown wrote Structure and Function in Primitive Society and he explained about the social structure. So we have a lot of things to discuss here. We have discussed about A.L. Kroeber, Franz Boas, Clark Whistler. Okay, we have discussed about culture climax. Okay, we have discussed about uh, W.H.R. Rivers' book, The History of Melanesian Society. You must understand it. You must know it. Okay, so we discussed about historical particularism. Okay, we also discussed about Julian Stewart book, Theory of Culture Change, the methodology of multilinear evolutionism. Theory of Culture Change, the methodology of multilinear evolutionism, given by Julian Stewart, explained uh, culture ecology and scientific theory of culture change. Okay, Leslie White talked about universal evolutionism of the world. Leslie White, Leslie White, Julian Stewart, culture evolutionism, Marshall Sahlin and service. So Marshall Sahlin wrote a book, Evolution and Culture, Structure and Function of Primitive Society, Evolution and Culture by Sahlin, uh, Theory of Culture Change, The Methodology of Multilinear Evolutionism by Julian Stewart. These are some of the books. You must understand it. You must remember it. You must remember it. This, okay. Then Julian Stewart's book. I have discussed with you. Okay. We have discussed with you Franz Boas. Okay. Franz Boas, A.L. Kroeber, then Ruth Benedict, then Margaret Mead. They were the students. Okay. He wrote a book, Race, Culture, and Language. Race, Language, and Culture. Book written by Boas. Race, Language, and Culture. You must understand. Heliocentrism we have discussed about. Okay. Then we have completed structuralism. We have completed functionalism. Okay. Then how we have talked about A.I. Radcliffe-Brown, Malinowski. Okay. Then comes structuralism. Structuralism, the anthropologists that belong to structuralism were Levi-Strauss and Edmund Lynch. Okay. So Levi-Strauss believes that human mind built structures of culture in universal ways. Like language has structure, culture has deep structure, and human mind builds this structure in universal ways. And this structure organize myths, organize kinships, organize customs. He also told that human beings thinks in binary fashions. Okay, so that is something about Levi Strauss. Okay, so structuralism, they shifted the approach of anthropology towards studying the mind. There is a mind, and mind makes build up the structures of myths, of rituals, and there is a mind behind culture rather than surface behavior. Okay, so I discussed about Levi Strauss, how the culture practices. So Levi-Strauss and Edmund Leach. Okay, so this Levi-Strauss, we are talking about structuralism. We are talking about how Levi-Strauss wrote a book, Elementary Structure of Kinship and Structural Anthropology. He talked about the mind behind the structures. We form structure of culture. Okay. He also gave the concept of binary opposition. Okay. So Levi structures studied about myth and Edmund Lynch. Edmund Lynch wrote a book, Political System of Highland Bomber. Edmund Lynch. Language, Culture and Religion. Wrote by Franz Boas. Theory of Culture Change, Methodology of Multilinear Evolutionism. Given by Julian Stewart. Then we have Leslie White. We have, he was also belonged to structuralist school of thought. Okay, so he applied this structuralism to real societies. Okay, how this, for example, he studied that myths, they talk about uh, mental structures. Myths and rituals express their underlying mental patterns. Myths and rituals express their mental patterns. Okay, so Edmund Leach showed how myths and rituals studied the mental patterns. So I have these structures. We are talking about the structures. We are talking about the social structures. How human make the structure of the culture. Like Edmund Leach explained it through myths. How myths talk about the metal structures, mind structures. Okay. So modern advertisement use the binary oppositions, old versus new. How the structures pattern shape our thinking, how the mind is behind culture rather than surface behavior. So Levi Strauss that human mind is like a structure and he forms a structure and he organizes the things, the different components are structured together. It is like just like language has structure, culture has also deep structures. Okay, so these structures organizes myths uh, give about information, the mind structure, the kinship and customs. It is a hidden patterns. It has deep structures. Culture has deep structures. That is, there are hidden patterns inside the mind that we form kinship, we form myths, we write myths, we organize myths, we write customs, we organize kinships. So that was about Levi Strauss and Edmund Leach, structuralism and functionalism. Okay, like Levi Strauss studied Amazonian myths. So he found the stories across tribes like heroes who mediate opposites, nature and cause. So there are similar kind of stories about heroes, about nature and culture. So Levi-Strauss studied Amazonian myths. They have similar deep structure. They have similar story structures across tribes. So Leach studied the Kanchin of Burma, the political system of island Burma, Kanchin of Burma, and showed that their political system move between egalitarian and hierarchical. So reflect deeper symbolic opposition. So binary opposition talks about binary oppositions in structuralism. Okay, so how our mind works, how our mind is structured, and our mind through and it is through this way we create culture. It is not by history, not by evolution, not by environment. Just like language have grammar rules, all have different deep structures. Okay. So when people tell myths about a hero who brings fire to humans, they are not just telling a story. They are just expressing their deep mental pattern about moving from nature to culture. So Edmund Lynch, so he applies these ideas to study the societies. So there our behavior, our myths, our social are real expression of our hidden mental patterns. Edmund Lynch. To tribal studied Amazonian tribes. They have similar deep structures like heroes who resolved conflicts, who acts as a between life and death, humans and gods. So Leis also studied the conchial people of Burma. Okay. One where all clans are equal and one where one clan dominates. That is, there is an opposition, equality and power, and order and chaos. That is a constant struggle. There is a struggle. So, natural versus artificial. That is organic food ads, smartphones versus old phones, car ads promoting adventure. Because our mind are wired to understand because they attract us, because our minds are wired to understand the world in dualities. We study the world in two different forms in dualities. So how people think, how people there goes in their mind, what is the deep structure inside the mind, and how these myths and various things are organized, logics are organized, what is the deep structure between them that connects the human being. Okay, so it like linguistic has different rules, grammar, it has structure also. So Levi Strauss studied about Amazonian tribes. Though have different stories, but they have similar deep structures. He's tried to apply the social realities, says that the political behavior, the social behavior are a result of deep mental patterns, deep structures. Okay. So our advertisements are shown like, okay, freedom versus control. There is traditional versus modern, that is smartphone versus old phones. They are using the opposites because our minds are wired to understand the world in dualities. We compare the rich with poor, we compare the nature with nurture. So Edmund Leach and Kunchin also wrote book The Elementary Structure of Kinship and Structure and Function in Primitive Societies. Also there was a book I talked about. Okay. So political system of Highland Burma given by Edmund Leach. Social structure, myths. Okay, Levi-Strauss belonged to structuralist school of thought. He was a French anthropologist, Levi-Strauss. Okay, so he gave the concept of binary oppositions. They gave the concept of deep structures, elementary structure of kinship, given by Levi-Strauss. So I was talking with you about the various school of thoughts: the structuralism, Levi-Strauss, Edmund Leach. Okay, so so he had sense of the world through binary oppositions. Okay, we try to bridge the opposites. Okay, they were too theoretical. They ignore real historical context, political context, economic context. Okay, they they say that all human think the same way. Okay, not just formal structures. So Clifford gets that human culture should be studied through live experiences and interpretation. So culture reflects the deep structures, logic of the human mind. Even myths, rituals, they express the thought process, patterns of thought. But it is a distance from real life. It explains how people think, but not always why they act the way they do. Why they act the way they do. That is about structuralism and functionalism. We talked about structuralism and functionalism. Then culture and personality school of thought. So we have some authors, anthropologists behind this culture and personality school of thought. They belong to culture school of thought. That is Margaret Mead, Ruth Benedict, both students of Franz Boas, Ralph Linton, Margaret Mead, Ruth Benedict, Ralph Linton, Kardiner, Cora-du Bois. So they all belong to culture and personality school of thought. Okay, so Benedict, Benedict in patterns of culture. Okay, so he's studied about Zuni and Dobuans, and Margaret Mead wrote a book Coming of Age in Samoa. So Samoan, the stage of adolescence was calm and free, unlike stressful American teen life. So the personality differences comes from culture, not from biology. So personality differences are due to biology. Okay. So Linton, Kardiner, Cora-du Bois, they studied basic personality structure. How basic personality shaped by child rearing and social institutions. So Mead's Somon study and Benedict work Mead's Samon study and Benedict's work with the Kwaikutl or Zuni. So they emotions like guilt, shame, they depend upon cultural upbringing, depend upon culture. So they focus on individuals within culture. Okay. So culture and personality school of thought, we need to discuss about it. Okay. So Ruth Benedict, culture is personality. Okay. Ruth Benedict says Margaret, let us know France. Ruth Benedict was a student of Franz Boas. I told you. So patterns of culture and Chrysanthemum and the Sword. Chrysanthemum and the Sword wrote was the work of Ruth Benedict. Okay, Ruth Benedict, the teacher of Margaret Mead. Margaret Mead was the first woman anthropologist of America. Okay, so Ruth Benedict says that culture is a gift of personality, means personality builds culture. Ruth Benedict says that personality builds culture. So it is the personality that builds culture. Whereas Margaret Mead, culture builds personality. So Margaret Mead, Ruth Benedict, so studied the various Benedict studied the various kinds of personality. She studied Kwaikutl, Dobu, and Pueblo Zuni. Okay, so he discussed about found that there are two types of personality in human society, that is Apollonian and Dionysian. Okay, so how the personality or there is an influence of personality on culture. So Benedict cites the example of Pueblo of New Mexico are the representative of Apollonian, means peace loving, calm, kind, disciplined. Peace is there, kindness is there, culture is there, and it is such traits are found in the Pueblo of New Mexico. Okay. Then Dionysian culture. Dionysian means they are not disciplined, they are not calm, anxious. They are a symbol of luxury life and drinking. So Benedict they said that Dobu and Kwaikutal, culture of northwest coast of America, are the representative of Dionysian genius. So Dobu of Melanesia are in contrast with the Pueblo in character. Okay, there is the influence of personality on culture. The culture of these groups differ because their members have different characters and personality. They behave in cultural groups. They form the culture. Okay, so Ruth Benedict wrote a book, Patterns of Culture, and also studied the national character. Ruth Benedict studied the chrysanthemum and the sword. He, in this book, he wrote about the Japanese national character. So Pueblo, Zuni, Dobu, they are the studied by Ruth Benedict. She was a student of uh, Franz Boas. So she said that build personality builds culture. So Apollonian personality and Dionysian personality. Apollonian personality was shown by Pablo Zuni and Dionysian personality was shown by Quetzalcoatl and Dobu. Okay, so Apollonian, Dionysian, they are both contrast in terms of kindness, in terms of calm, in terms of a simple life, they have a luxurious life and drinking. Okay, so Dobu and Quetzalcoatl northwest coast of America are the representative of Dionysian genius and Dobu of Melanesia. Okay, Pueblo, Zuni. So personality builds cultures. That's what Ruth Benedict says. Then comes Margaret Mead. Margaret Mead says that cultural influences the personality formation of individual. So coming of age in Samoa, her first book, which was a bestseller. She was a leading figure in culture and personality school of thought. She was a student and collaborator and lifelong friend of Ruth Benedict, Margaret Mead. Okay, so Book Margaret Mead also deals with the study of national character of America, like Ruth Benedict deals with the study of national character of Japan. So her book Sense and Temperament in Three Primitive Societies of New Guinea, Arapesh, Mundugumor, and the Chambuli. So they reside in the same geographical area. So why societies they live in the same area differ in their character and personality? Why? So it is because of cultural differences. They live in this, but they are different cultures, the different societies. So in the personality of Arapesh, they are peace loving, and Mundukumar are uh, competition, quarrelly, jealous, suspicion. They're very aggressive. So these personality characteristics are due to the cultural differences. The culture is different because of the personality differences. So Margaret Mead, Ruth Benedict. Okay, then comes Ralph Linton. So Ralph Linton wrote a book called Study of Man. ठीक है. So Ruth Benedict we have studied about Margaret Mead, like Ralph Linton. Okay, there was a lot of criticism of it. The people are the personality are the products of culture, and culture are the products of personality. Maybe okay, there remains foundation in understanding how culture forms the human mind. So yeah, they are overgeneralized means they assume that the entire society share uniform personality, share uniform culture. Overgeneralized. It ignore diversity. It ignore class, individual variation, gender roles. Okay, they rely on subjective interpretation rather than empirical testing. Okay, so more cultural personality school of thought made anthropologists more human centered. They're bridging culture and psychology. How emotions, how identity, how personality are shaped by cultural context. The people are the product of their culture. You must understand about culture and personality school of thought. So culture and personality school of thought. So culture and personality school made anthropology more human centered. Culture and personality theories taught us that people are the product of their cultures. It made human being more centered on human, like Ruth Benedict, Margaret Mead, Ralph Linton, okay, Cora-du Boas, Cora. Then Abraham Kardiner. So we will study up to only culture and personality school of thought. Okay. So he studied about status and role. Status means occupying a person is occupying a certain position and that is called status. And role means the behavior that is expected from the position. Okay. Then Abraham Kardiner. He was psychoanalyst. The way the person, society raises its children through discipline, through affection, education, gender roles. So there created a basic personality structure, shared psychological pattern. Then it influenced the society's secondary institutions. That is, child rearing practice shapes personality, then basic personality shapes the secondary institutions. Okay. So I talked about Abraham Kardiner. Then I have talked about Ralph Linton, Abraham Kardiner, and Cora-du Boas. So Cora-du Boas, no one, Cora-du Boas built on Kardiner's idea that argued that not everyone in culture fits in the same basic personality. He concept the concept of model personality structure. So model personality structure, but there are some variations among the individuals. Okay, so he studied Alor of Indonesia. Alori's children they grew in the condition of insecurity, competition for resources. They were anxious, cautious, distrustful, and this becomes the part of adult model personality. Okay, so how uh, personality develops through roles and status, social roles and cultural learnings. Kardinger focused on child rearing practices, creation of basic personality model. Dubious discussed about model personality. So they made anthropology more psychological, link everyday experience, emotions to broader cultural system, how culture influence emotion, emotion influence culture. Okay, so their legacy influences psychological anthropology, how culture molds the mind, deep structure, rooms for personal variations. Okay, so that was I was discussing about the culture and personality school of thought. Okay, so he gave the concept of status and role in his book Study of Man. Okay, how personality influences culture behavior. Personality builds culture, culture builds personality, personality builds culture. We talked about ideal culture, real culture, and culture construct. Abraham Kardiner introduced the idea of basic personality, and Cora-du Bois studies Alori's culture, Comanche culture, culture of an American rural community. Co-authored the book Psychological Frontiers of Society, Adult Model Personality. Okay, so we have discussed about Ruth Benedict, Margaret Mead, Ralph Linton, Abraham Kardiner, and Cora-du Bois. Talk about basic personality types, child rearing practices, model personality, talked about how personality builds culture, culture builds personality, and again personality builds culture. Sex and temperament in three primitive society, coming of age in Samoa, then psychological frontier of modern man, national character of Japan, national character of America, Ruth Benedict, student of Franz Boas, Margaret Mead, student of Ruth Benedict. And Linton talks about status and role, how they relate with personality formation, how personality influences culture. Linton talks about status and role. Kardiner talks about basic personality type, and Cora-du talks about model personality. So how these things are interrelated, guys. So far we will study this concept up to culture and personality school of thought. We have studied different theories in this video, and we will continue the next theories in the next video, guys. So channel को like करें, subscribe करें, share करें, guys. Thank you, guys.